I'm in the middle of a consultation right now. Stop calling me over trivial matters, Harry, my husband, yelled angrily. It's too much trouble. Why are you calling me just because your mother passed away? She's a complete stranger to me. Harry hung up the phone, leaving me in stunned silence. After a while, I finally found my voice. Trouble? My parent passed away, and he calls it trouble? I questioned myself. Does Harry really need me? I have been trying to convince myself of this to maintain the status quo. But to be told that my mother's death was a trouble, and just a death? This was the moment I finally woke up. What is that? I'm not Harry's puppet. I'm absolutely done with this life. I slapped my cheeks with all my might. You don't want me to call you over trivial matters? Fine. I have a lot to say about you and Hannah too. After this, Harry will frantically call me, but I will never contact him again. And from his anger, shocking truths will start to emerge one after another. My name is Sarah, a 28-year-old florist. I met my husband Harry when I was a part-timer. I confessed my feelings to him and we started dating. He was a very kind person, and more than anything, I could feel that he loved me the most, which led us to marriage. Until a year ago, we had truly enjoyable days, but Harry changed. When will you finally learn to make appetizers that I like? This isn't fit for enjoying with a drink. Make it again. Without taking a single bite, Harry threw the food I made into the trash can. I clenched my fists, desperately trying to hold back my tears. And I replied with a trembling voice. I'm sorry. I'll try my best to make it better next time. Please, don't start disliking me. Harry looked satisfied when I said that. And that's right. That's how a wife should be. You're not my girlfriend anymore. You're my wife, so act accordingly. I took you in when you were just a lowly part-timer. So don't you dare make such disgusting food again. And if you ever talk back to me, we're getting a divorce. With that, Harry went out. He's probably going to eat at a restaurant outside again, thinking my cooking is terrible and not to his taste. After Harry left, I tried the food I made. It sounds strange to say it myself, but it wasn't bad. It tasted like typical homemade American food, and it wasn't so bad that it deserved such harsh criticism. I wonder what exactly Harry dislikes about it. The more I think about it, the more confused I get. However, the reason I can't talk back in this situation is probably due to my upbringing. While organizing my phone's photo folder, old memories resurfaced. 10 years ago, when I was 18 and a senior in high school, my parents decided to get a divorce. I can't live with that man anymore. Imagine using Sarah's tuition money. Just before I was about to enter college, a disaster struck. I had to give up on college because we didn't have enough money for tuition. My mother was furious about this and decided to divorce my father. At that time, my older sister Hannah says she would go with my father. I've already started college and Mom can't afford a private university tuition with just her part-time job. Dad only used Sarah's tuition money. He'll pay for my tuition with the money he earns from now on, and that's better for me too. Hannah was a person who only acted based on profit and loss. This was always the case. She didn't trust others, even family, and was only interested in immediate gains. She also tried to find the shortest route to the correct answer, so she sometimes acted without any empathy. Not everyone is like this, but having been Hannah's sister for many years, I think I understand how ruthless she can be. So even at this time, she wasn't interested in her sister's future being ruined or her parents' divorce affecting her life. She was only thinking about herself. My mother was infuriated by Hannah's attitude and yelled at her. How can you say such a horrible thing? Do you only care about yourself? She's your sister. Show some concern. Why should I? What's it to me that she's my sister? Sarah and I just happen to be born as sisters. I don't think we need to help each other. And you should stop forcing your values on us just because you're our parent. What did you say? My mother and Hannah are similar. That's why they clash so badly. They both have strong opinions and don't back down, just like each other. During this divorce turmoil, my mother and Hannah eventually declared that they were cutting ties with each other. Well, I never want to see your face again. Likewise. So in the winter of my senior year of high school, my parents divorced. Hannah went with my father, and I stayed with my mother. I eventually gave up on going to college. My mother said she would somehow borrow money to make ends meet, but I didn't want to go to college that badly. I answered with a smile. I'll be fine. I don't want to see you struggling. Besides, it's not like you have to be 18 to go to college. I can earn money later and go on my own. There are also online colleges, so don't worry too much. This wasn't a bluff. It was my true feeling. I loved my mother very much, and I thought it was better to just get a job than to make her struggle. But what about your youth? My mom said that, but as someone who preferred spending time alone, I wasn't interested in joining large groups of college students and partying. I thought it was better to earn money steadily, so I got a job right after graduating from high school. At first, I worked as an office worker, but due to various issues like pressure from my boss and the workload, I ended up quitting. So at the age of 22, I became a part-timer. I juggled several part-time jobs and managed to get by. One day, a full-time employee at one of my workplaces, a business hotel, spoke to me. This was how I met my husband, Harry. I heard from the manager that you're the one who chooses the flowers for this hotel. You have a great sense for it. The guests are happy too. Keep up the good work. He complimented me on the seasonal flowers I had arranged at the front desk. I was so happy to hear these simple words that I started to become aware of Harry. Harry was the area manager, overseeing the entire region. He wasn't there every day, but he would visit our hotel a few times a month. Because we could only meet occasionally, my feelings for Harry grew stronger. Unable to contain my feelings any longer, about a year after we met, I confessed my feelings to him, and Harry said he felt the same way. Actually, I've been interested in you too, Sarah. I could feel your positive energy, and I realized I had fallen for you. If you'll have me, please go out with me. My confession was successful, and at the age of 25, Harry and I started dating. The next 2 years were so much fun. First, I changed jobs. I was so happy that Harry complimented my flower arrangements that I became a florist at a nearby flower shop. Although I was a full-time employee, my salary wasn't that high, so I continued working part-time jobs. But the owner of the flower shop praised my flower arrangements and had high expectations of me. Eventually, they asked me to be the manager of a second store if they opened one. Just being needed made me happy. My mother had always cherished me, but my father and Hannah were almost indifferent. Apparently, my father had wanted a daughter first and then a son. He was apparently disappointed when I, another girl, was born after Hannah. Hannah also wanted a younger brother, and apparently she complained to our parents about why she got a younger sister when she was little. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I was treated with indifference by my father and sister, and I always felt lonely. That's why my desire for approval grew stronger. I wanted to be needed by everyone and loved by everyone. The reason I fell for Harry so quickly after he complimented me was probably because of this desire within me. In short, I had no sense of self. Everything was determined by the other person. Even when he proposed, it was my own feelings that mattered, but the fact that he liked me and needed me. This made me incredibly happy. That's why I decided to marry him, but Harry had different feelings. After we got married, his true colors gradually started to show. It became clear when Harry had to go on a business trip to a distant area for a while to train a new manager, about 6 months after our wedding. A wife is supposed to prepare for her husband's business trip. Harry suddenly said that one night while I was enjoying a drink and watching TV. I didn't understand what he was saying and could only stare at him blankly. Then, he let out a big sigh. I'm saying that this is your job, not mine. I was shocked. He had never called me you like that before. I'm sorry. I wasn't considerate enough. What should I prepare? I really didn't know, so I asked him that. Harry looked visibly disappointed. You don't even know that? You're hopeless. How did you even survive until now? Alright, you probably never had to deal with business trips. You were just a part-timer when we met, after all. He looked at me with clear contempt and a malicious smile. This was the beginning of hell. The next day, before leaving for his business trip, Harry asked me to do something. While I'm away, you're not allowed to interact with anyone else. I genuinely didn't understand what he was saying and asked him back. Does that include customers too? He nodded, as if it were obvious. I don't want you to cheat on me, and I mean women too. If you can't follow that, we're getting a divorce. Remember that. With that, he left. At the time, I thought he was joking. I thought it was his way of showing affection. So I didn't take Harry's words seriously and went about my work as usual. But that night, Harry called me and said this right away. A regular customer came in today, right? You were talking about last night's dinner. And then a young man came in to reserve a bouquet for his girlfriend, right? I gasped. Harry was right about the customers I had dealt with that day. He spoke as if he had been there. You broke your promise. Well, I'll let it slide this time since it's the first time, but there won't be a next time. I'm always watching you. With that, he hung up the phone after saying what he wanted. The next day, I immediately talked to my manager at work. Since our conversations were being monitored, I handed her a note to convey my feelings. My manager read it with a shocked expression and nodded slightly. For the time being, I was allowed to focus on tasks that didn't require interacting with people, like doing paperwork or making bouquets in the back. But after a while, I felt like I was going crazy. Not being able to talk to anyone made me feel incredibly lonely and anxious. That night, I cried and pleaded with Harry. Please, let me talk to people at work. I won't talk to anyone outside of work. At first, Harry didn't agree. But since he was a workaholic himself, hearing that my work was being affected seemed to change his mind. Well, it wouldn't make sense if it affected your work efficiency. Fine, I'll allow you to talk to people at work, but absolutely no one else. Not even the cashier at the convenience store. If you can follow that, I'll allow it. I let out a sigh of relief. I should have realized then and left Harry, but I was so desperate to be needed by someone that I never considered leaving him. And so I continued my relationship with Harry, and before I knew it, a year had passed. His attitude was still terrible, and he probably thought of me as nothing more than a convenient housekeeper or servant. I knew that getting a divorce would be better. I knew that in my head. But no matter the circumstances, as long as Harry needed me, I probably couldn't leave him. And so I continued in this brainwashed-like state until now. Recently, my mother started contacting me frequently, saying she wasn't feeling well. That day too, she called me. My head has been hurting since morning. I felt dizzy and I knew something was wrong, so I called an ambulance right away. I wanted to go home, but my body was so heavy. I left the flower shop as soon as my lunch break started and went to pick up my mother. My mother's complexion was really bad when she got into the car and her face looked quite gaunt. I was worried and asked her about it, but she just said, I'm fine. I never got sick when I was younger. This is probably just because I'm getting older. Don't worry too much about it. I hoped it was just a minor thing, but people like her tend to pass away suddenly. I had a vague fear that my mother might be one of them. That's why I wanted to cherish the time I had with my mother. Of course, you are going to prioritize your own selfish desires over taking care of me. My earnest wish was shattered by this single statement. I had never talked back before, but when it came to my mother, I couldn't just back down. I stood up from the table, put both hands on it, and confronted Harry. Why? Why is it wrong to be with my own parent when she might be dying? Tears streamed down my cheeks. I loved my mother that much. However, my words didn't reach Harry's heart at all. Instead, he sighed in exasperation. Everyone dies eventually. It's natural for parents to go before their children, and people tend to live longer when they're worried about dying. So you just keep taking care of me like you always do. Harry, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, went back to his room, leaving the trash on the table. As usual, he didn't touch the food I made. I wanted to sigh, but I knew something was probably installed on my phone, and all my conversations were likely being monitored. So I didn't say anything and silently started doing the chores. And then a week later, what? Calling me at this hour? It's not even lunchtime yet. You're so inconsiderate. Harry answered my call with a genuinely annoyed tone. It was a little after 11 a.m. I held back my tears and told Harry what had just happened. Mom passed away. Passed away? The fact seemed to surprise even Harry, as he repeated my words. My mother had been fine a week ago, but she collapsed this morning and never recovered. I have to prepare for the funeral and everything, so I'll be busy for a while. I won't be home for a bit. The house will probably get messy while I'm gone, but that can't be helped. I called, thinking he wouldn't tell me not to have a funeral. But I'm in the middle of a consultation right now. Stop calling me over trivial matters. Harry yelled angrily. I was so taken aback that I forgot to breathe. I could only listen to his torrent of angry words. It's too much trouble. Why are you calling me just because your mother passed away? She's a complete stranger to me. Besides, the funeral home takes care of most things. All you can do is stand around. You work at a flower shop. It must be slow. Just take care of it during your work breaks. If you neglect your chores, we're getting a divorce. With that, Harry hung up. I stood there, stunned. Did he just call my mother's passing trouble? Trouble? My parent passed away and he calls it trouble? Neglect my chores and we're getting a divorce? I questioned myself. Does Harry really need me? I have been trying to convince myself of this to maintain the status quo. But to be told that my mother's death was a trouble and just a death? This was the moment I finally woke up. This isn't being needed. It's being used. What is that? I'm not Harry's puppet. Now Harry is in a consultation meeting, so he should be able to listen in to what I'm saying, no matter how much he tries to eavesdrop. You said you'd divorce me if I was away from the house for too long, didn't you? I have proof of that. Don't try to make excuses later. I won't forgive you. I shouted, then I slapped my cheeks with all my might. I meant to get myself fired up, but I hit myself a little too hard, and my cheeks turned a bit red. But I was fully awake now, so I didn't feel any pain. I'll make you regret looking down on me. You don't want me to call you over trivial matters? Fine. I have a lot to say about you and Hannah, too. A few hours later, Harry called me repeatedly, and the app on my phone was flooded with messages, but I ignored them. I have no intention of calling him back, and I'm prepared to ignore him forever. Besides, I'm busy taking care of my mother's affairs, so I don't have time to deal with Harry. In the meantime, my mother's cremation was completed, and only the interment of her ashes remained. Around that time, Hannah finally tracked down my mother's house and came to visit. So, this is where she lived? What a dump. Oh well, where's the will? I had contacted Hannah, but my mother's letter said not to invite Hannah to the funeral and to contact her only after the cremation. So, I contacted her after the cremation, and 4 days later, Hannah arrived. She really had a bad taste, didn't she? You only told me she died and didn't say anything about what to do next. I won't let you take all of Mom's inheritance. I'm her daughter too, a legal heir. So, what are you going to do? Hannah said this arrogantly, and I calmly asked her. Even if you get the inheritance, most of it will be taken by the settlement money, so it's a waste. Hannah froze when she heard my words. Settlement? What settlement? I told Hannah the truth. You're having an affair with Harry, aren't you? At that moment, Hannah fell silent. After a moment of silence, I told her what I knew. There was something strange a week before Mom died. It happened when I was cleaning up the trash that Harry had left on the table. Huh? In our area, trash separation is quite strict, so we can't throw everything in the same bag. We separate burnable waste into red bags and non-burnable waste into green bags. As I was doing this, I felt something was off. Do convenience stores use such cute pics these days? At first, I was going to throw it away without thinking, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong, so I decided to look into it. My bad feeling was spot on. I went to the same convenience store and bought the same lunch, but it wasn't cute at all, and it didn't even have a pic. This was suspicious, so I secretly hired an online private investigator. And in just 3 days, they found out about Harry's affair. I showed Hannah the photo of Harry's affair partner that the investigator shared with me online. Hannah froze when she saw the photo. Of course, because the person in the photo was Hannah herself. What? Since when? Hannah was trembling and I sighed and answered. How could you have affair dates so close to home? The investigator was able to quickly catch them because they were openly dating nearby. This also explained a lot of Harry's behavior. He told me to avoid talking to other people as much as possible and secretly installed a monitoring app on my phone. It wasn't because he loved me and wanted to keep an eye on me. He was just being cautious so I wouldn't find out about his affair with Hannah. It was my fault for not realizing such a simple trick. And my constant need to be needed by someone prevented me from breaking free. But in the end, it was Harry and Hannah who were in the wrong for having a secret affair, not me for not running away. So I'm going to claim compensation for emotional distress. I took a step closer to Hannah and she took a step back. After a silent standoff, Hannah quickly left. A few hours later, she came back with Harry. Unusually, Harry looked flustered. You knew? Since when? Yes, I know. I'm over it now and I'm divorcing you. I have proof, so sign this now. The divorce papers were edged in green, and I carefully filled out my part. Harry gulped. What do you mean you have proof? I don't want a divorce. I haven't neglected any chores since your mother's funeral. You said you'd divorce me if I neglected my chores. Well, the conditions are met, and you want a divorce too, right? You'll grant me a divorce, won't you? I smiled and said that, and Harry looked flustered. No, I didn't mean it like that. Then Hannah interrupted our conversation. But you said you'd divorce Sarah, right? It sounds like you didn't really mean it. What's going on? Well... Harry was caught between Hannah and me and started to panic. Apparently he claimed that he wasn't serious about Hannah and that it was just a fling. Hannah and I are similar, so we clash when our opinions differ. We don't compromise, but Sarah is obedient. She doesn't talk back and does whatever I say, so she's convenient. Hannah is my girlfriend, and Sarah is the perfect wife. I have no intention of changing this arrangement. Ugh, what a terrible thing to say. Even Hannah was speechless and frozen. Then Harry, realizing that I was serious about the divorce, grabbed my hand tightly. I'm sorry for treating you badly. I have no intention of marrying anyone but you, Sarah. I could see the lie deep in his earnest eyes. It was so obvious. Let go of me. I shook off Harry's hand. Even though he only held my hand for a short time, I got goosebumps. Don't touch me with those, filthy hands. This wasn't your first affair, was it? The investigator said there might be other women besides Hannah. How can I trust the words of such a frivolous man? Hannah, I know it's strange for me to say this, but you should leave Harry. You'll only end up hurting yourself. What are you saying? Harry looked upset and tried to defend himself, but Hannah, who was shocked to hear that there might be other women, didn't seem to be listening. Of course, neither was I. If I had known that making a decision would make me feel so light, I would have handed you the divorce papers sooner. Sign it. Be responsible for your actions like a grown-up. I pushed the divorce papers towards Harry, and he tore them to pieces. What are you doing? When I asked, Harry looked triumphant. I'm not getting a divorce. Besides, it's bad for my reputation. I've even talked about my marriage with clients, and they like it. There's no way I'd throw away such a convenient topic myself. Harry stomped on the torn pieces of the divorce papers. This is nothing. Now, you can't write up the divorce papers today. I don't know what he's talking about, but I took out another document from the envelope. Harry froze at that moment. I anticipated this, so I brought many copies. I got so many that the person at the city hall was bewildered. See? I have over 10 more, so you can make mistakes. Make sure you sign it properly. When I pressed Harry, he started to back down. Hey, are you serious? If I'm gone, you won't have money. If that's what you're worried about, there's no problem. You were so busy spending money on your mistresses that you barely contributed to the household expenses. I managed with my own money, so I won't have any problems. If anything, I'd appreciate it if you'd just leave the house already. I covered my mouth and chuckled, and Harry's face turned red. Like me, Harry seemed to want to be needed by others. He was probably flustered to learn that I could live without him. I've been appointed as the manager of the second store next year. My salary will increase, and I'm good at this job. I even want to open my own shop eventually, so I have no regrets about you, Harry. It would be easier for me if you just get a divorce already. When I told him this calmly, he was speechless. Meanwhile, Hannah, who had recovered from the shock, started to butter me up. I'll pay the settlement, okay? So please, don't tell anyone at work or around us. And I'm dumping this guy. I don't want him. Harry snapped at Hannah's words. This guy? You knew he was your sister's husband and you still went after him. You're a terrible person who only acts based on profit and loss. I don't want you either. What did you say? They started arguing, so I clapped my hands to silence them. I calmly told Harry and Hannah, who were staring at me. If you agree to settle out of court, I won't ask for anything other than the settlement. But the divorce is non-negotiable. If you refuse, I'll take you to court. Harry looked like a bug had crawled into his mouth when he realized how determined I was. Hannah also seemed to realize that there was no point in resisting any further and didn't say anything back. I handed them the settlement agreement. Sign this if you agree. Harry, you also need to sign the divorce papers. It's up to you, but I'm prepared to go to court. Just know that. With that, Harry and Hannah finally picked up their pens and signed their names on the documents. With the settlement agreement signed, my business here was done. But I still had one last card to play with Hannah. By the way, Mom left an inheritance, right? I showed Hannah the bank book with my mother's savings. Hannah started to shake. What? There's nothing here. Only $10,000? What's going on? I thought there would be more. I don't know what she was expecting, but this was the reality. Mom was afraid of this, so she didn't leave an inheritance. To be precise, she gradually transferred her money to me over the years as a gift before death. The will was opened in the presence of a witness, and it said she wouldn't leave you a penny. You can claim a small portion because of your legal rights, but I don't know if you know how to do that. Anyway, Mom did everything she could to make sure you wouldn't get anything. So go home. This is my house now, the house where I lived with Mom. I have no intention of letting strangers in. Goodbye. I smiled and pushed the two, who were frozen in shock, out the door. They yelled for a while, but a police officer on patrol happened to pass by and spoke to them. After hearing my side of the story, the officer told them to go home. After that, I immediately submitted the signed divorce papers to the city hall and officially became a stranger to Harry. Of course, I made him delete the monitoring app from my phone in front of me. However, this became a rumor at Harry's workplace, and especially the female employees were disgusted by it. Harry's job was in sales, so trust was important, but it turned out that he was abusive at home and had affairs with multiple women, so his credibility plummeted. He eventually quit his job and is now working several part-time jobs to make ends meet. He used to make fun of me for being a part-timer, but now he's living the life he despised. He also had to take out a loan to pay me the settlement, so his finances are in shambles. It's just punishment for his arrogance and treating people like servants. Hannah, like Harry, is also deep in debt. Apparently, Hannah wasn't working a proper job either and was making a living working at a hostess bar. But at 29, Hannah is getting too old for that kind of work, and it probably won't last much longer. In the end, Hannah has no skills, no experience, and no money. After she retires as a hostess, she'll probably have to work as a black-suited staff member at the bar, which is a completely different kind of hardship. Eventually, she collapsed from exhaustion. But like Harry, Hannah's situation is also self-inflicted. Hannah's father is also a person who only acts based on profit and loss. That's probably why he abandoned Hannah and is living a carefree life somewhere, although it's probably not a very good life. As for me, I'm working hard as a florist after the divorce. Unlike a cake shop, not everyone who comes to a flower shop is happy. Some people come to buy flowers to offer to someone who has passed away. I met a man at the flower shop who had lost his spouse. At first, I just listened to his stories and comforted him, but our relationship gradually deepened. 2 years after we first talked, we started dating. And when I turned 35, we got married, and now I'm pregnant. You never know how happiness will find you. That's why if you live your life to the fullest, good things will surely come your way. I gently stroked my pregnant belly, cherishing the present moment.